Hello. Thanks so much for joining me today. We're going to be talking about a subject that I hear so much about from my clients and from my family and from my friends and from everyone. I get a lot of questions about neck and shoulder tightness and pain. So we're going to be talking about a few reasons why that could be happening and what we can do about it. In quick little easy at-home exercises. What we're not discussing are if there's underlying causes, like if you have a serious injury to your neck or shoulders from like an accident, or say you have herniated discs and things like that. We are not talking about that. We are just purely discussing maybe some postural habits that you might be taking on during the day while you're sitting at your desk or working and things like that. It's things that we can easily adjust with a little bit of mindfulness, right? So just know that there are other causes of neck and shoulder tightness that we will not be discussing. But one thing that can be causing a lot of that pain that I see people getting, it's my cat in the background, is the way that we're sitting at our desk, right? I see so many people, when they're seated, we get tired, and they start to kind of round forward with their upper body, right? They're getting this caved in sensation of their chest, which tells me that they're what's called your pec minor muscles are really pulling hard on the head of your shoulders, right? They're pulling them in, so we're getting this curved position. By doing that, it forces my neck to have to sit a little bit forward, and it's no longer stacked back how it should. So now my discs, those little pads in between your vertebra, have shifted out of place, and they're no longer stacked. You can think of like a Jenga tower. If you started shifting all those blocks around, it's not going to be very stable, right? When we have instability, that's when we can end up with a lot of muscular pains or even nerve pains as well, from things being pinched off, and it just doesn't feel good, right? So we're thinking, okay, my neck and shoulder tightness may be caused from the way that I'm sitting, right? Maybe I'm rounded forward, I'm letting my chin jet forward, no longer in alignment with the rest of my spine, and I'm just kind of slouching in the chair, slouching on the sofa. If we live our whole lives just slouched, right, our body's going to get used to that, and it's like a wet glove that you let dry inside of a pocket, like a leather glove, and then when you try to take it out and undo it, it's like all crusty, right? That's like our body. Crusty glove. We don't want to be a crusty glove. We want to be a nice, soft, and supple glove. So what we can do about that, right? If you're not sure if you're getting pec tightness, right, you can't really tell for yourself. A fun tip that I learned from someone named Dr. Sarah Duvall, wonderful physical therapist, pelvic floor PT, really, really knowledgeable. She gave a fun little trick to help you find your pec muscles, okay? So if you were to clasp your hands together, right, and if you were to push just from the thumb side of your hand, like you're just squeezing the thumb side together, okay? Push, 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 push. Let it go. Try it again. Push, 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 push. Let it go. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. Do you see what that did to my shoulders, right? Like really like rounded forward, and I'm getting all this tightness right through here in my armpit. So that's going to be more your pec minor muscles that a lot of us tend to depend on when we're rounded forward with our head and shoulders. Now, reset. Try to squeeze with just the pinky side of your hand together. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. Let it go. Squeeze. Really pushing through the pinky side only. Now by doing that, do you see how my shoulders started to go back? My shoulder blades started to draw closer towards my spine, right? It's the difference between being thumb side and pinky side, okay? So by pushing our pinkies together, it's going to start to activate our bigger chest muscles, our pec major muscles. Pec minor, pec major, right? We want more pec major and a little less pec minor tightness to help us come to a neutral position of our spine. So like, okay, that's great, but how do I do that, right? How do I get these to relax? One way is just knowing when they're on, right? Take a second when you're at your desk, like, okay, self-evaluation time. Stick your fingers right into that tissue. You can see kind of where my skin is getting red from poking at it. You're going to squish your fingers into it, yeah, and just notice, okay, does this feel really rock hard right now when I'm just sitting at my desk? Hopefully the answer is no, but if it is yes, it's okay. It's just we're observing that. Like, okay, this is really rock hard, so that means I gotta get this to loosen up a little bit. I gotta get the head of my shoulder to start to go back in space, and I need to get the muscles in between my shoulder blades to also engage a little bit more to help keep my chest lifted. So I'm not doing this, I'm doing this. So a fun exercise that we can do with that is to grab just a hand towel, or if you don't have a hand towel or a dish towel, you can even use like a pillowcase or a scarf or something like that. What I like to do though is to roll it up so it makes a tube shape, okay? So you have a tube. I'm gonna step back so you can see me a little bit better here. So you can do this standing, you could do this kneeling, or even sitting reverse in a chair, right? So that the back of the seat is facing you, just so you have some space behind you to move, okay? I'll demonstrate on the knees. What I'm gonna do here is hold on to the towel, so it's just about the width of the pelvis apart, palms are facing backwards, okay? Now, just take a second here to reach back with the towel, but you're gonna open the heads of your shoulders, right? So see the difference, it's from being here versus here with the heads of my shoulders. So once they're as far back as they can go, then keep that as you try to lift the towel up behind you with straight arms, and then bring it down. Shoulders stay back, push against the towel and lift it. I like to feel as if you're gonna rip it in half by tugging it and try to lift it up behind you. Now notice, are you doing this with your chin sticking really far forward, right? You wanna keep your chin tucked back towards your throat, as if you're trying to listen to a conversation behind you. We need to feel that our head, our shoulders, and our rib cage are stacked over each other. Okay. Reach. And also our pelvis. We want that too. We want it all. So you try several of these, just focusing on trying to get your shoulder blades, those flat bones on your back, to squeeze together towards your spine. Okay? And then pausing with that, you might already start to feel, ooh, okay, my chest, yeah, is a little bit wider now in the front. I'm sitting a little bit taller than maybe I was previously, okay? So step one, right? Reaching back behind you to get that to open. Now, another thing that we can try, if you have an open wall, okay, is to do an exercise here where we're gonna get the front of our chest to stretch open. So we're getting that pec minor to really release by using the wall, okay? So I'm gonna stay on my knees, but you can do this standing, you could do this in half kneeling. What we'll do is to position ourselves so that we're close to the wall, okay? And you're gonna take the arm that's next to the wall, okay, and you're gonna bring it back behind you. I think of it like a goalpost position of the elbow. So the elbow is lifted to the height of your shoulder. Make sure it's not too low, because otherwise you're not gonna get a whole lot out of this. It's up, and now I'm gonna turn my thumb on the wall so it points outward, right? So I went from a flat palm to having the thumb pointing out. Keep your thumb pointing out. Take your free hand to the wall as well, like a little spider hand, and try to lean your shoulder into the wall as if you're listening to it, okay? Now as you're doing that, the more your head can start to turn away from the wall, it'll also intensify that shoulder stretch. So you should be feeling it right through the front of the head of the shoulder. If you're not, try to A, adjust it a little higher, B, turn the head, or C, make sure your thumb is pointing out, okay? And it really then should start to pull through here. So that's another one to try to help to open the front of our chest. Another thing I like to tell people is when you're seated maybe at your desk and you have long hours that you're working in front of a computer, take a few seconds to stop and try to actively push your chin back towards your throat and feel like you're lengthening the back of your head to the ceiling. So I go from here to going back and up, here, back and up. So we're reinforcing those discs to start to restack over each other to get the head to go back into place, okay? So that our body can kind of get used to that muscle memory of being back in space, right? Like I mentioned before, the cue that I really like to give people, it's like you're listening you're eavesdropping on a conversation that's happening behind you. Trying to get your head to go back so that you can hear what's happening behind you, okay? It'll help you to get that taller posture. Now, the last thing I'll kind of talk about here is the way that you're breathing. And I know for some that might sound very like woo-woo. I don't like to talk about breathing. I don't like to meditate. It's not for me. Well, it should be. Meditating is good for everybody and really actually important, even though it feels like you're not doing anything. So even if meditation is not what you want to try first, think about how you're breathing, okay? So breathing makes a huge difference about how it compounds the tightness in our neck and shoulders, okay? So if I'm always breathing very shallow into my chest during the day because I'm like stressed, I'm tired, you know, I'm not thinking about it, I start to only breathe here. My inhale lifts my shoulders, and they just go up and down all day, hiking, lowering, and I'm just lifting from what's called your upper traps, the tops of your shoulders. Do you see how that's so tight? That doesn't feel good, and it kind of makes my chin go forward as well. I haven't gotten a deep enough breath down into my rib cage to get my diaphragm, that breathing muscle inside of your ribs, to start to move, right? This is what needs to move, not this, okay? Those are accessory muscles that they will move a little bit, but they shouldn't be your only breathing muscle, okay? So you're like, okay, great, but now how do I do that? Okay, so if we're gonna mindfully breathe to help relax our shoulders, okay, what I want you to try to do is just take one hand across the body towards the top of your shoulder and literally just squeeze your upper trap. Just give it a little love, a little push, okay? And then you're gonna take the other hand and you're gonna bring it towards your rib cage, okay? So you're kind of finding that squishy spot that's right in between the two sides of your ribs, okay? So with that, I like to tell people to close their eyes just so they're able to focus a little more on what's happening with the breath, okay? So you can give that a try. What you'll do is try to inhale through your nose, but then exhale through your mouth like you're blowing air out of a straw. Inhale through the nose, out through the straw. Now you might feel a little goofy at first making a sound when you breathe, but it's totally fine. Inhale. Exhale. Notice, am I able to inhale without really tensing that upper shoulder that I'm holding on to? You want to get air lower towards your rib cage. Breathe into your bottom hand. Upper traps are soft and squishy. Inhale. Exhale. And then you can pause with that. Okay? So maybe it's just a matter of needing to take like a couple minute break while you're working and be like, okay, grab my shoulder, grab my ribs. I'm going to take some intentional deep breaths, because not only will that reduce anxiety, right? Because we all get anxious at some point with heavy work schedules and a crazy schedule of life. So that will help with anxiety levels by taking deep breaths in. And it'll also help us to reduce that neck and shoulder tightness that we're getting. Because again, if we only shallow breathe, this is just going to get tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter until we're walking with shoulders for earrings, right? We don't want that. We got them all the way down in a place that's going to feel really good on your neck and shoulders. So try that. And you got those few stretches. We got one to engage those muscles. We got one to open the pecs. And we got one to focus a little bit on the breathing and how we're aligning ourselves, okay? Remember, head, shoulders, ribs, and pelvis all stack with each other, okay? And then with my next video here, I'm going to give you some neck stretches that you can try to also help relieve some neck and shoulder tightness.